we get into the video, if you wouldn't mind liking the video right now, it would really help this particular video reach a lot more people. And whilst you're here, we're in the final stretch of our quest for 10,000 subscribers, which is a personal dream of mine. So if you'd like to be part of the team, subscribe now and let's get on with the video. Lads, welcome to a brand new video on the channel. My name's Ingood Nick, and in today's video we'll yet again be blowing smoke up the gaffer's bottom as we go through Chris Wilder's best 10 signings since becoming the Sheffield United manager. Now I want to give a special mention to the following lads that just missed out on the top 10. James Hansen came in when we had a mid-season blip and were actually struggling to score a goal in League One. But the main reason why we struggled was because we weren't holding the ball up. And when Hansen came in, the flame was reignited. He only scored one goal, but it was his hold-up play and assist that got us firing again. Ebanks Landell came in when we were a bit flimsy at the back and added that physicality to the back three. And he made strikers scared of our defence. But not just that, he also chipped in with a few goals, including a last-minute equaliser against Fleetwood and a last-minute winner against Bury. Daniel Lafferty just missed out on this list, but don't get me wrong, he was a very important player for Chris Wilder, as he stabilised our defence when we were a bit suspect at the back at the beginning of the League One season. He also chipped in with some important goals too, but his main job was removing Chris Hussey from the team. Awful. Martin Craney's time was only short-lived, but it was very impressive as a backup when we needed him in various positions. And finally, Jake Wright was in this top 10, but since Lunny has been incredible this season, I've had to make room for him. Oh, stuff it, I'll include them both and it'll be a top 11. But before I start, I've got to say these aren't in any particular order, as I didn't want a riot in the comments. But first up comes Mr. Dependable, Mr. Solid, Mr. Invincible. Yep, you guessed it, Jake Wright. In League One, when Jake was wearing a Sheffield United shirt, he never tasted defeat, and had a spell in the Championship which proved he was solid as a rock even in a league above. However, Wilder didn't seem too keen on him in the Championship, as he brought in Richard Stearman, but Jake really did add that solidity to our back three, and I never felt nervous with him shepherding the other two central defenders. Next is everyone's, and I mean everyone's, favourite fantasy football captain, John Lord Lundstrom. He was a forgotten man last season after only starting 5 games and coming on for a sub for 5 games also. But this season until recently, he was an ever-presence and shocked literally all the Bramall Lane faithful by playing out of his skin for the majority of the season, scoring and assisting goals for fun in his up and down central midfield role. But after all, it was Chris Wilder that saw that in him in the first place, when he brought him in for peanuts the season before last. He's improved immensely, and even though he was replaced by Sander Berger recently, he's fought his way back into the side, proving he is good enough. Next up is George Baldock. For me, George was steady in his first season, but endured injuries which let Kieran Freeman back in. But last season, and this season up to now, speak for themselves. He's shone more than I could ever have expected, and he's getting better and better with every game. He's improved his dribbling, his passing, his crossing, and most of all his fitness. The lad wasn't the finished article when Wilder signed him, but he's improved year on year and will only keep getting better. Next up, David McGoldrick. Now Didsy came in on a free transfer, but had a slowish start to last season. But after that slowish start, he just got better and better and better. His goals at the end of last season definitely helped us win promotion, especially as Sharp was injured and he could have easily gone into his shell, but he didn't. He came out and led the team from the front with lots of goals, classy performances, and also a hell of a lot of running. Remember Ipswich said this guy was a crock 18 months ago? And the first half of this season he was showing up Premier League defenders week in and week out. He may not have started too many games recently, but that's because Billy and Ollie have both been brilliant since coming back into the fray. Next is the only loan signing in this list, and it's obviously Dean Henderson. I could have easily put Simon Moore in this list, because Simon Moore came in and stabilised that defence, and really took us to a new level in League One. But I believe Henderson's done the exact same thing, but took us to a new level in the Championship and now in the Premier League. And that edges out Moore, unfortunately. Henderson made an odd mistake last season, but who doesn't? But the fact of the matter is that he came back and made some excellent saves. And he was a big reason why we conceded the joint least last season, and he obviously won the Golden Glove. And this season he's been nominated for the EPL's Player of the Month, he's been in the England squad, and he's conceded the second least goals this season up to now, 25. Only 4 behind Alisson Becker for Liverpool. He may only be a loan signing, but who cares when you're playing week in, week out? And in my opinion, he's been a fully fledged Blade since walking in the door in 2018. It would be a miracle, but hopefully we can get his signature at the end of the season, or at least another year out of him on loan, because I'm definitely not ready to let him go. Now from a player that's on loan to us, to a player that's out on loan away from Bramall Lane, Mark Duffy. In our last 3 seasons, everything's gone through Mark Duffy. He controlled the game, he moved teams around, he made us tick. Not to mention creating lots of chances and chipping in with the odd few goals here and there. I feel that every time Duffy wasn't on the pitch, we wouldn't click. And when he came on, you saw a huge difference in the amount of chances that we create. He had some great times in a red and white shirt, and since then, it seems to have gone downhill for him. I know a lot of people will disagree with me here, but I'd certainly welcome him back with open arms and genuinely think that he could make a difference as a super sub in the Premier League. After all, he's done it before.
Inside and outside he goes, that's a stunning goal! How on earth did he manage that?
Next up is the best left back we've had in my lifetime, Enda Stevens. I firmly believe that Enda has the most potential out of the whole squad to reach the very top. I truly believe he could be playing Champions League football in the next season or 2. Hopefully with us, but if not, I feel he could be snapped up by a top 4 team. And he'll probably play at that level for the rest of his career. Anyway, he came from Pompey and straight away I knew he'd be able to handle that step up from League 2 absolutely fine. However, he did have an odd dodgy moment in his first season, and even then I said he's excellent between both boxes, but his defending needed to improve, and his final ball also needed to improve. And between the middle and the end of last season, something just clicked in his head and it all came together. He was putting incredible crosses onto attackers' heads, he's creating goals from byline pullbacks, and he was having shots and scoring goals. He's come on leaps and bounds since Wilder first got his signature, and he is a special player. My next pick cost us a whopping 4 million, and when a player arrives for 4 million, you think already they've got to be a decent player. And a decent player John Egan is. Now Egan started off a tad slow, but it must be difficult to get into the swing of things when your defensive partners are flying up front and leaving you behind all the time. But he soon showed his defensive qualities, and he's been our brick wall ever since. Heads everything, blocks everything, and tackles everything. What a Trojan. And we are truly seeing the next coming of Chris Morgan. But I do believe that Egan has more potential and will go further in the game than Muggs. Plus, he's had an incredible start to his Premier League career. Like I said earlier, Dino's been excellent when he's had to make saves, but the back 3 have made it so he barely has to make any saves at all. And a third of that praise goes to John Egan, if not more than a third. Next up, Ollie Norwood. And for me, the Ollie Norwood signing is a bit like the Dino signing. Ollie took us to that next level. He came in when we'd signed a lot of dross, and no one that could really partner Fleck well enough. But his range of passing and his crossing created so many goals. But it wasn't just the assists. He started attacks with one swing of his boot, and we don't have anyone else at the whole club that can do something like that. Well, actually, Lunny's long passing is improving, but Ollie's still the master. I feel Ollie didn't come at a time when we wanted him, he came at a time when we needed him. He also brought his leadership skills and his winning mentality from his 2 previous promotions. What a baller. Next up, the man I tipped to be our best player this season, and he's barely put a foot wrong, Jack O'Connell. What an incredible signing Jack O'Connell was, and I was really fearing the worst after Brentford fans were saying that it was terrible. But after 4 or 5 games, I've got to admit, I agreed with them. He was terrible. So he started his Blades career off really poor, but Wilder saw the potential in him and stuck with him, and what a decision that was. He's got better and better every season, adapting to his surroundings and constantly coming out on top. Jack is the strongest in the tackle, in the air, creates goals, scores goals. There's nothing this man can't do. And Wilder signed him for barely anything. And finally, in my opinion, the best signing that not just Chris Wilder's made, but the whole club has made, is John Fleck. I know everyone always saw John Fleck as a good player, but nobody has ever got as much consistency out of him as Chris Wilder has. Fleck was one of Wilder's first signings, and it's been a delight to watch ever since. Just like Jack, he's improved every season and he's now mixing it with the big boys week in, week out. He's the most all-round midfielder I think we have. Strong in the tackle, tracks back, dribbles through players like they're not there, creates loads of chances, and also until this season chipped in with the odd goal here and there. But this season, in his more advanced role, he's created and scored way more goals than he's ever done. And he's in the Premier League, for God's sake. But for me, his biggest asset is helping out with the wide overloads. If it wasn't for Flecky joining in with Jack and Ender on the flanks, they definitely wouldn't get as much success down those wings as they do. And guys, it cost absolutely nothing. So that's the final list, and not only hats off to Wilder, but to the recruitment staff and also the coaching staff for improving these players year on year. And to go from League One to the Premier League in 3 seasons is a credit to these lads and everyone connected with the players. Anyway, if you didn't agree or you think I've missed anyone from this list, please comment below. Also like the video if you enjoyed it, and stay in good nick.